What's up, y'all? It's your boy, Pastor Mike, aka 90s number 5. Here we are once again in the 11th hour, and we're going to come at you today talking about some issues, some things that are going on in our community, things that's going on within our families, and just things that's going on in life. But I tell you what, I am super excited because, anytime the Cowboys get a win, the brothers always on cloud nine. So I'm super happy about that. I do know and I understand the realities of life that, the Cowboys may not ever get to the Super Bowl again for a little while. But, you can keep your hopes up. You can keep your hopes up. It's almost that holiday season time especially for our schools, for the kids to get out, take a little bit of break, and just have some fun. So we're getting close to that. Today is what is this, the second day of December? So I'm excited about that. I love cold weather. Now I don't love like the freezing cold, but I do like the cold weather. And my wife, she's a big fan of this weather, so she's super excited about it too. So I'm just good. Just glad to be here today and just excited about just life, just trying to learn how to just dig in and enjoy life and just see the goodness of life. And so today, man, we just gonna talk about some things that are real. One thing, we hear this term a lot, and I know I say it a lot too, and sometimes I may not exactly know how to go into it with this term, but we say the struggle is real. And what do we really mean by that when we say the struggle is real? So today I want to talk a little bit about suicide. Man, that is a big topic and a big issue that's going on right now with we seeing celebrities to your next door neighbor to people across town. We're just seeing a lot of our young people that are taking their lives. We're seeing a lot of middle class people taking their lives. We're seeing the elderly take their lives. And man, suicide is not a joke. It is a serious thing. And so we really need to take a look at that. But when I think about, well, first I want to talk about how families are really important. And what does family mean to you? Like when you stop and think about the word family, what does it mean to you? Like when you think about it and you think about your own family, whether you grew up, in a single parent home or two parent home, or especially if you was an only child, or if you had a bunch of brothers and sisters, what does family mean to you? Now, for me, family means a lot because I'm blessed. I'll truly say I'm blessed. Me and my brothers and sisters, we're all still here. Like I tell everybody, I'm the youngest of five. I'm the youngest. I'm the youngest of five, and I always jokingly but seriously say this: I'm the better looking of all my siblings. So if you see my siblings, it all goes downhill after you see me. So, but I love my family. I jokingly say that because they know I'm just playing, and that's how much I love my family. And I grew up in a single parent home, like most Americans did. I grew up in a single parent home. It's just my mom raised all five of us by herself. She did the best she could, and she was always there for us. She did have to work, so she was gone, working and taking care of the family. But when she could, she was there. Like, I still remember being a young man in elementary school, and mom showing up to, y'all remember when we used to have Christmas programs in school? Y'all remember that? Singing the little Christmas songs and doing all the little plays and all the things like that. I still remember my mom. She showed up for things like that, and I know that was a burden on her, but man, family meant a lot to her. And so family means a lot to me. So I try to do the same with my kids. I try to be at every sporting event. I try to be at everything that they're doing. I really try to be there for them. So family means a lot. I love my family. Now, listen, I'm a big believer that every family has its ups and downs. It's kind of like the roller coaster deal, but I'm starting to learn to enjoy both. I don't like the downs, but I've learned to even enjoy my family in the downs because I want to be there for my family. So family means a lot to me. So I want to know what family means to you. And why don't you, just take a minute and just think about that. What does it mean to you? So my mom was a big cook. Like, oh my goodness, man, every year, even now, I think about when I was growing up, when December hit, my mom used to be baking something pretty much every weekend. Like the little Russian cookies she'd cook. She'd cook cakes. She'd cook pies. She would cook something almost every weekend. The house was always smelling like a bakery during December, during this time. And man, so she loved the bake. So I know there's one thing I mentioned it before. My mom used to cook this thing called a butter roll. Woo wee, Lord have mercy. I'm telling you, that butter roll was on point. Man, that thing was so good to make you stand up and salute somebody. That's how good that thing was. And she'd bake that, and man, we put on some ice cream on top of that, and man, we be set. So, but she loved cooking. Like my mom would cook those roasts, and she cooked that hot water cornbread and them turnip greens. Ooh, that macaroni and cheese. Man, my mom would be on it. She loved to cook for her family. And so, man, that's kind of like what I like to do. So I like to try to do the same thing for my family because that's the way I was brought up. But even if you wasn't brought up that way, what does family mean to you? And how do you express your love for your family? So when I think about that, I also think about the times when I was struggling, like when I had issues and when I had problems and I had things going on in my life and I needed to talk to someone. Fortunately, my mom was always, well, I wasn't gonna say always, but fortunately, my mom was there if I needed it. But I also had my brothers and sisters. So I always had someone that I could go to, that I could talk to when I needed it. And when growing up playing sports, I had my coaches there. The coaches was there to step in at times and would lend their ear to talk to me. But we all need someone to talk to, and especially I want to say this, especially for adults. Like, sometimes as an adult, we feel like we have it all together, or we want to express that we have it all together, or look like we have it all together. But even as adults, we need someone to talk to. We need people to communicate with, because we need to bump ideas off of people. Because sometimes when our family do put us in a place where we need someone to talk to, as an adult, we need to find help. We need to find people to talk to, and because life does get hard. I mean, it really does. It gets hard, and sometimes it's hard to handle life on your own. And so I would just, like, even with me, I talk to people all the time. Like, if it wasn't for the mentors in my life now and the men that I hang around with now, man, sometimes I don't know if I would even make it. Like, I'm being true. I'm being honest. Like, sometimes I don't even know if I would make it. But I know that having great people in my life at this point in my life, even with having kids, being married for all these years and working, man, sometimes my mentality just gets to a point where, there's some things I can't talk to my wife about. And most definitely, I'm not going to go to my kids about certain things. But when I need someone to talk to, I'm going to pick up the phone. I'm going to text somebody. I'm going to have lunch. I'm going to have breakfast. I'm going to do something, because I know for my mental capacity, I need to get with someone to talk to somebody about what's going on in my life. Now, if you don't have anyone, you really need to try to find someone. I'm telling you, there's nothing like having somebody cool in your family, or somebody that you trust, that you can go and you can talk to. I remember when we were kids. I mean, now I'm kind of going back. I'm kind of dating myself a little bit. So I remember when we was kids, man. Hanging out all day is just what we did. And we hung out all day, and we sit around and we just chit chat, and we would just talk. And I know cell phones was not in existence, and I know the internet was not there. So I'm really dating myself on for some of y'all. But that was the beauty of the life that we grew up with. And I think sometimes even now today, like, I know kids probably wouldn't know what to do if you took their cell phones from them, or if you shut the internet down. But I think sometimes just having that time away, and just being able to talk, and not having those distractions around you will help you buy into some things, that you thought was quirky or funny, or I can't survive without my TV, or I can't survive without my phone. Trust me, you'll be just fine. I think we survived without it, even though it wasn't a necessity for us back then, but we had things back then too. So I would just encourage, man, talk to people, like really talk to people. I know growing up, we made fun of the quiet kid that was in the corner, or we may have said some things that were not really great about some people that was dealing with some mental issues. But you know what? We didn't really know what was going on inside of their head. We didn't really know. There could have been some things going on inside of them that they were battling with, some thoughts and some processes that they were dealing with that we really didn't know. I mean, the kid that sits in the corner and doesn't really talk, we would say, some quirky things to that kid, but who knew what that kid was dealing with inside his head? Or the man that walks down the streets and always singing, or he's always doing this, always doing that. How do we know that they wasn't dealing with that? Or, man, just as simple, your next door neighbor, like, you never see them, they never come out, or when they do, it's in and out and in and out. I was having breakfast this morning with some men. I was fellowshipping with some men this morning, and that's one of the things we talked about. It's like neighborhoods are not even the same anymore. Like, people come in and they drive in their garage, and they put their garage door down before their car even quits. People just run out, and they've even moved the mailboxes. I know in my neighborhood, like, they don't even have mailboxes in front of your house no more. You got to go like 2 or 3 streets over where they put everybody's mailbox in one section. Man, we're creating silos even in our neighborhoods. Like, we just don't even communicate like we used to back in the day. So it's even harder now to have these conversations with people in your own neighborhood, because we're creating these silos where we're just doing everything on our own. And if we can't get it from the internet, if we can't, order it, or we can't, do it over the phone, then we pretty much don't even really have these relationships anymore. And so what is that really doing? I mean, what is that really doing to us when we're not creating these relationships like we used to have? And I think that's the beauty of the era that I grew up in, was that, man, we talked, like, we hung out, we had fun. I remember next door neighbors, we used to go over each other's houses as kids, man. That's what we did. And our families and the parents, they hung out together. I still remember my next door neighbor. I still remember the time he took the belt to me, like, for some stuff that I had did. And, I knew my mama was on my side. Like, my mama gonna hold me up. Shoot, man, I got the belt again. Like, which nothing's wrong with that. I mean, because if I was wrong, I was wrong. But I just think, man, that is part of the healing and the part of growing up that we miss today, because there are times that, adults can see young people doing some things that they don't need to be doing. And I don't really believe hardly, man, everybody's not out to hurt everybody. So we need to have the process of finding out how we can get along like we used to. And we also need to learn how to say, people may be really battling some things inside of their heads, because we can't see inside of people's heads. So we don't know what they're thinking. We don't know what they're going through. So I'm not want to put more on top of them. So that's why I try to treat everybody the best that I can, because I want to treat people the way I would love to be treated. So if I don't want to be hurt, or I don't want to be harmed, or I don't want to be talked about, or I don't want to be misused, then I try my best not to do that to other people. Now, it's been a while now. We had Tom Sterling on, and we had Tempest on, and they came on, and Coach Voss, they came on, and Tom and Tempest really talked to us about mental health. They really talked to us about, people really being alone who live by themselves, or people that are dealing with the daily grind and having issues that are going on in their life, and they think that they can handle these things, and when in reality they can't. We use different things to help us handle stuff. And of course, the most obvious things that we talk about, we use alcohol, we use sex, we use drugs, we use pornography, we use all those types of things to help us when we're going through bad times. But you know what? Some people use anger, they use depression, they use quietness, they use just be by myself. That, those are things that we use to deal with mental health too, because we say, I got this. But Tom and Tempest reminded us that, man, we need to talk to people. Like, we really need to get out and talk to people, because mental health is not a joke. Coach Voss came on. It's been a while since we talked to Coach Voss, the head basketball coach over at Riverdale. He came on and talked about how our athletes, how they're going through, like, they have issues and they have problems. And, just our young people are dealing with so much today, because society is putting a lot on our young people. And so they're in this struggle, whether it's, their grades and trying to play sports and trying to keep up with their peers and trying to keep up with what their parents want, trying to keep up with what the coaches want, what the teachers want, what they want. So, our young people are dealing with a lot. They're dealing with this cyberbullying that's going on where, back in the day, we just just get in front of each other and we say what we need to say. If we need to throw a couple blows, that's what we do. And then tomorrow we back out on the playground and we're just kicking it. But nowadays it's not that easy. Our young people are doing it through, the internet. They're doing it on, Snapchat. They're doing it through social media. And that's harder to regulate because, you can't stop most of that. And then unfortunately, a lot of our young people, fight is really not a thing anymore. It's like, let's just pick up a gun and let's just take care of it. And so these are a lot of issues that's going on. So that's why I say as a family, man, as family, we need to step up as a family because, my concentration is, our young people, family and community. We're seeing a lot of this suicide going on. And I feel like some of it is not all. We really can't explain suicide. And I know there's been tons and tons and tons of research on suicide. And I know counselors and psychologists and all these great people, they're doing such great work to find out about suicide and having suicide prevention. But man, suicide is still a phenomenon, man. Like you think what's going on in somebody's head, but you really don't because you don't really know what they're thinking. Because first of all, they're going to have to be honest about what they're thinking. And they're going to have to be honest about what's going on. And praise God for those that do come forward, and talk about the issues and problems that are going on. But man, those that don't, those that hide it and say, I got it, I understand it. And then, you have the realities of having to walk through that. Unfortunately, I've had to walk through it several times myself. Like from family members to close friends to young people who I know and have been a part of their lives and they've committed suicide. And it is just like, man, dude, I just saw you the other day and you was such a great guy. You had so much going on. And then here it is, you're gone. So as a family, how can we begin to love our kids? I know we think about that and we say, well, Pastor Mike, I'm doing the best that I can. And my child is everything to me, but I can't be that in all things. But, we need to figure out how to do this. We need to figure out, especially within our families, like what are some things that we're doing differently? But before I get into that, I want to just share some things with you that I discovered. Like I went on the Tennessee Department of Health, and this is their 2021 suicide prevention report. And this is what they're talking about. They start out talking about nationwide. They talk about suicide nationwide, and then they break it down to the data for Tennessee. So here's what they say. They said suicide is a leading cause of death across the United States and continues to be a growing public health problem in Tennessee. The effect of suicide on individuals, families, friends, and communities is long-lasting and profound. Listen to this. In 2019, there were 47,511 suicide deaths in the United States at a rate of 14.5 per 100,000 person population. While suicide can affect persons of any age, race, gender, or socioeconomic background, certain demographics are particularly vulnerable to dying from suicide. This right here is what kind of just got me. It said across the U.S., there is a higher rate of suicide deaths among men, whites, Alaskan Native American Indians, residents of rural areas, young people who are lesbians, gay, bisexual, and veterans and military personnel. Man, did y'all hear that? Like it's not just a particular group, man. It's all of us, man. It's all of us that are dying from suicide. These deaths, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how old you are. It doesn't matter your race. It doesn't matter your gender. It doesn't matter how much money you have. It doesn't matter anything. Man, all of us are susceptible to suicide. Suicide is such a mental thing, man, because it's up to the person. But I also believe, man, it's up for our communities too to gather around to say what's different. Like, what's different in 2019 than in 2015? What's different? What's going on that the suicide rates are increasing? What are we doing different? I mean, I think there's some things that we have to recognize as not only as a community but also as families. Like, what are we doing differently? How are we missing it, or where are we missing it? Could it be the fact that, when you go home at night, and when you get home and you drive up in your driveway, and you shutting down the garage door before you even let your car cut off? Could it be the fact that you go outside and you cut your grass, and then you done and you go straight in the house? Is it the fact that you just can't even walk down the street and just wave, say, "Hey, what up, y'all?" And then get a response back? Is it the fact that, you just can't go to dinner anymore without having issues or problems? Is it the fact that our kids can't even go to school no more? It's like you can't even go, which is, my wife's favorite place. You can't even go to Wally World no more without even having issues. It's like, what happened to the family reunions? Like, family reunions used to be a big deal. Like, everybody wanted to go to somebody's family reunion. I mean, those things are almost non-existent. It's like we're letting, here I am sitting here in front of a laptop, which was unheard of back in the day when I was growing up. But technology, man, how do we use technology for the good? How do we use it for the good instead of for the bad? And when I say for the bad, I mean, how do we not let technology create silos, even within our own homes? Because I'm gonna tell you, I take notice. I tell my wife all the time, like, I've really started taking notice for myself. Like, I'm just talking about me, so I'm not gonna talk about anybody. I literally purposefully come home when I get off from work. I literally come home, take my cell phone out, and I put it in the bathroom. Like, I just put it in the bathroom. I don't know why I picked the bathroom. Tell you the truth, I don't even know why I chose the bathroom. Maybe it's because it's the furthest room from where I'm going to be. And I just put it in there. And I try, and I've really been doing well. I don't go back to my phone at all, because I'm like, I'm gonna give the world my day. Like, I got my 8-hour day, and I'm gonna do my job, and I'm gonna answer emails. I'm gonna do all of that. I'm gonna look on Facebook, and I'm gonna do all that stuff during the day. But when I get home, it's family time. Like, I'm gonna let that phone go, because I know that if I get so tied up into my phone that I can sit on that phone for hours. For hours. I joke with my fam, like, dude, y'all can sit here and be on your phones trying to watch a movie and trying to cook. Y'all doing all of that. Like, get off your phones and let's just watch the movie, or get off your phone and let's just sit out and have dinner together. Like, let's disconnect. Like, we're creating silos with the electronics. There's nothing wrong with the electronics, because I mean, I use them to text my kids, and I use it to make phone calls and make group chats and things like that. So I try to use it also in a positive. But also, I think sometimes those phones and that technology begins to create these silos. And then here we have these families that are trying to be a family, but in actuality, they're not families. They're just silos that are living together. Have you ever noticed, like, when next time you go out to eat, do me a favor. When you go out to eat, notice how many people sitting around the table on their phone. How many people just sitting around? It could be a family of a bunch of people. Now, we know the younger generation, they're going to be on the phones for sure. But even with some of the older generation, how many of them on their phones? I know my kids get mad at me, but I'm like, hey, when we're at the table, hey, put them phones up. Like, you can't give me 10, 15 minutes. Like, let's just disconnect from the phones. And I know I'm a little old school, but I love my family. Like, let's have conversations. Like, let's talk about anything, the weather. Let's talk about the grass. Let's talk about your schoolwork. Let's talk about what's going on in the community. Let's just talk about the last thing you saw on TV. Let's talk about what you're going through. Let's talk about some issues and problems and things that you're dealing with. Because I tell my kids, as you create relationships with your phone, it decreases the relationships with us. And so I want our relationship to increase. I want our relationship to increase. I don't want you having a relationship with your phone when I'm right here in the house. So let's create relationships with us. All right. So look, check this out. All right. This is some data for Tennessee. Okay. It says the number of deaths by suicide increased by 13% from 2015 to 2019. So in 2015, we had 1,065 versus now we have 1,220. The rate of deaths by suicide per 100,000 population has increased by 11% to from 2015 to 2019, 16.1 versus 17.9 respectively. The 2019 rate of suicide in Tennessee is 29% higher than the national rate, which is 13.9. Okay, Tennessee, what we doing? What's going on? What we doing here in Tennessee? What's different about Tennessee that makes the suicide rate so high? Like, how are we missing it? Like, how are we missing it? Is it that we're really just missing it with our family? Is it just we're really missing some of the signs that go along with that? You know, I know I mentioned a minute ago that, you know, we take things for granted sometimes. Sometimes we think because the kid is making straight A's, I should say because the student is making straight A's, they doing well on the court or on the field or in the swimming pool, and it seems like things are going well at home. Are they not having issues and problems? I mean, because listen, if things are going up, that means we're missing it somewhere. That means there are things that are happening that we're not seeing. So that means, you know, we got to start examining what's going on around us. And that's why I go back to say, man, families are huge. You know, families are a big deal. You know, it's not what's the difference? Say the quality of time, you know, not the quantity of time. I could spend a lot of time with my kids, but if it's not quality time, have we really spent a lot of good time together? I mean, I just think about, you know, when I was growing up, I mean, my mom worked a lot, and I'm gonna keep saying that because I think it's worth mentioning it as much as she worked. But the times that we spent together when she was not working was positive. It was all great. It was wonderful. I mean, she didn't have a lot of time, but the quality of time that we spent together, you know, was really great. And sometimes that's what it takes. You know, sometimes it's, you know, just sitting down with your child and just having quality time. It doesn't have to be 3-4 hours. It doesn't even have to be 2 or 3 hours. It's just, what are y'all doing in that time that y'all have together? And that means both of us, you know, my children and me, that means both of us are going to have to make some sacrifices to make this time work. I know we all want our downtime because they're like, well, what about my downtime? You know, you got to work that in. You have to work that in. And unfortunately, you know, as parents, you know, sometimes our downtime is when we go to bed. Is when we go to bed. You know, it's like, okay, instead of going to bed at 10 or 10:30, you may need to try to start heading to bed at 9 so you can have your downtime. You know, it's kind of working it out. I'm willing to sacrifice some downtime to spend some quality time with my children. And even if that means, you know, picking with my kids, going up to their room, because I'm gonna tell you, if you don't go up to their room, lots of times they're just not going to come down. And when they do come down, sometimes it's just to grab a snack and go run back upstairs. So, I mean, I even try that. I mean, my son don't like it. He be like, what you want, Dad? Like, what's up? I'm like, dude, I'm just here. Like, what's going on? You know, he's like, you know, it's all good. It's all good. Go in my daughter's room. I pick with her, you know, just trying to find ways to say, hey, I'm here. Like, I'm here. Like, I want you to know that I'm here. Even as far as, you know, we really try to go old school on this one, y'all. I really try to make sure at least we are eating dinner together at least once a week. We're going to sit down at the table and we're going to eat together as a family. Now, I'm going to be honest, and my kids didn't really like it. You know, they didn't really like it at first, but I think they're really homing in on it now. And so we'll come downstairs. It's Sunday is our time. Sunday, you know, it's the end of the week or the beginning of the week, depending on who you are. We had that time together. We just going to sit at the table and we just going to chit chat. We just going to talk. We just going to hang out. a 30-minute dinner can turn into an hour and a half because we're just sitting at the table, we're just laughing and talking, and we're just talking about the day, we're just talking about the week, we're talking about what happened, what's coming up, and we're just talking. And they act like they don't want to be there, which they really may not. But by the time we get through eating and talking and laughing, they're feeling good, and then the whole family's feeling good. And at that moment, nobody's on their cell phones. We're just sitting at the table and we're just talking. So the Tennessee data continues on. It says in 2019, the suicide death rates were highest among ages 25 to 64 and lowest in children between the ages of 10 to 24. And this is per 100,000 population. It says more males than females die from suicide. The rate of suicide in Tennessee is 28.3 per 100,000. Males, it is 3.6 times higher than that of females. Man, I mean, it is. Hey, ladies, yeah, we're stressed. Boy, men, we are stressed. Like, and I'm not saying men has more stress, but I'm just saying, as men, we have a harder time handling stress. We're trying to figure out more ways to deal with stress because fortunately, women, they love to talk to each other, and a lot of women are more open than men. We keep more stuff in. We don't really let things out. I don't know if that's through society, whether it's culturally or that's just the way men kind of perceive it. But we hold things in. I'm gonna tell you right now, my wife get mad at me because I'm gonna tell you, I'm gonna let you have it. Like I'm gonna talk. Like she like, you always talking about something. I was like, hey, because I'm trying to be around as long as I can, so I'm spilling the beans on everything. Like I'm gonna talk. And it took me a long time to get there. I'm gonna be honest, it took me a long time, but now I'm understanding that if I can talk, if I can express my feelings, if I can let things out, man, I can begin to let people know what's going on. And not only that, she knows what's going on. And so, and then if she knows what's going on and my kids know what's going on, and I have some really good mentors in my life, they know what's going on, then man, I have some safety blankets around me. I have some security of some people that I can talk to. And now I'm not feeling as bad as I was, or I feel like I'm not doing this thing on my own. And that's why I love to be a voice for people, or I just love to be an ear. Let me say that I love to be an ear because I love to let people, talk about what's going on in their life. Because, when I talked about me growing up, I know my mom was an ear, and I know I had my sisters and brothers, but a lot of times when there are certain things that you're going through, sometimes you just really needed to have that one particular person. And so even though my family was there, I still at times felt like, I needed an extra voice or extra ear, not a voice, but an extra ear just to listen. And so, because sometimes family be tripping, like sometimes you can't tell family stuff because they'll use that stuff against you. Sometimes they will, not all the time. So sometimes you need that person who's not family and who's not that close, but they're willing to listen to you because they know you, and they're going to keep your stuff a secret. And when I was growing up, everybody was family. Like whether it was your first cousin, second cousin, third cousin, or your ninth cousin, we were all family. So it really didn't even matter because we were all together because we all spent so much time together. And so I think some of that has been missed. Like a lot of that is not as prevalent today that we saw back when I was growing up. And so a family is huge. One more thing right quick, and we're going to go through this. It says 90% of suicide deaths in 2019 were among white individuals, and the rate for whites was 20.5 per 100, was over twice that of blacks, which is 8.6 per 100,000. So listen, we're all dealing with issues and problems. And so when we just think about this whole suicide thing, we think about the young people that are killing themselves. We think about the older generations that are killing themselves. We think about the men, the women that are killing themselves. That this has to be a thing that all of us are going to have to work with. And it says firearms are the leading mechanisms of death by suicide among 61% of all 2019 suicide deaths. Hey, listen, there's one thing that I do know is that, man, if we learn to just give people some time and to listen to people, we could probably, hopefully, prayerfully reduce some of this. I know suicide, I know not suicide, I know bullying and trying to make your point and trying to make yourself feel better than the next person. Man, sometimes that's just not the way. And I know in families we have arguments, and I know sometimes we don't get along, and I know sometimes things are not going the way they should go within our families, but we're still a family. So, what can we do as parents, teachers, friends, and especially as a community? What are some things that we can do as parents? What are some things that we can do? Now, I don't have all the answers, but what I do love telling people is, man, I love trying to figure out what we could do. Like, I know I don't have all the answer as a parent because I've made some failures as a parent because I'm not the best parent. But I know as a parent, there's some things that I try. I try to communicate with my kids. I try to be there for my kids. I try to do things for my kids. And most of all, I always tell my kids all the time, hey, I'm here. I'm open. Tell me anything. Just don't tell me I'm ugly. No, I don't want to hear that. But no, I'm just playing. Tell me anything. Like, let's just talk as a family. Like, I want to be here for you. Like, I'm your parent. I'm not just here just to buy you things and to give you things and to just pay for everything. That's not why I'm here. I mean, yes, that's part of why I'm here, but that's not the only reason why I'm here. I'm also here to listen. I'm also here to lead you. I'm also here to be a part of your life. I'm also here to guide you in certain directions. Teachers, what are things that teachers can do? And I know it's frustrating as a teacher because you're already overloaded with all the things that you have going on. So what are some things you can do as a teacher? As a friend, what are some of the things you can do as a friend? And then lastly, as a community, what can we do as a community that can help some of these families that are struggling, help some of these young people that are struggling? What are some of the things that we can do as a community? What are some things we need to build? What are some of the things we need to create? What are some of the activities we need to do as a community? How can we help each other? Do we need to have more bonfires? Do we need to have more block parties? Do we need to have more house to house, what they used to call those things where you take food to people's houses, potlucks? And I know I've seen enough stuff on TikTok now to say this is why you don't eat potluck, but because you just don't know what people doing in their houses. You really don't. But I just feel that, look, do it like they do on my job. Make it store bought. Everything has to be store bought. I don't know, but we need to just create things in our community that can help. The importance of a family. What are the importance of a family? You need to sit down and think about your own family. You know, I know you say, Pastor Mike, I'm doing enough. I'm doing so much for my family right now. What's the famous book? The Five Love Languages. I mean, maybe what you're doing is not working because that's not working for your family. So maybe you need to sit down and figure out what works for your family, because everything that we do may not be working. And so sometimes we got to go back to the table and figure out what works. No different than in your marriage. Like, if you've been married for a while, sometimes some things work, some don't. You know, like, you could buy your wife gifts all day long, but if that's not what she wants, then buying those gifts is not going to help the relationship. You could do the same thing for him. You know, if you could say words of affirmation. You could tell him how much you love him, how handsome he is, and how wonderful he is. Yeah, but if that ain't what he really needs, then that's not going to work. Same thing with our families. What is it that your family need? And you have to really sit down and examine your own family, and that takes time. That means you have to disconnect from the things that are not important. You know, what's really important for your family? Is it sitting down at the table and eating as a family every night? Is it taking trips together? Is it just sitting around and having a powwow? Is it, going to church together on Sundays? Is it, being involved in the community? Is it going out? What's important for you and your family? Those are some of the things you have to think about. Here's one thing that I want to give a shout out to a good friend of mine, Pastor Philip. This is one thing that he taught me that I really live by. He says, there's nothing like the power of presence. You know, sometimes our young people don't really need us to say anything. And I'm learning that. Like, as a father, I'm really learning, like, I don't always have to speak into my child's life. You know, I do. I love that opportunity to speak into their life. But sometimes I just need to be there for them, just for them to know that I'm there. It is enough. You know, sometimes I don't have to say a word, just that they know that I'm there. I really tried to make sure that if my kids are playing a sport, I really try to make sure I'm at every single game. It's really going to take a lot for me not to be at their game. If they're doing something important, or if my daughter's going somewhere, if my son is doing something, it's their first job. Here's one that I've thoroughly enjoyed. My wife don't really like doing it, but I really enjoyed teaching my kids how to drive. Like, man, that's been fun for me. Now I got this last one. I'm trying to teach her how to drive. Now I may need some medication with her, but for the other two, it was fun teaching them how to drive because I love to see them grow. And so that was quality time for us. Like, that was our quality time because we ain't test driving for long. We go find us a big empty parking lot and we take 10, 15, 20 minutes, let them drive around, hit a couple of stop signs, hit some couple of turns left and right. And we're laughing, we're talking, and and I'm getting crooks in the back of my neck because they just throwing me all over the place. And we're laughing and talking about that. And then I'm like, you ain't ready, or you almost ready. And just to see them progress, I love to cook. I love to cook with them. Get them in the kitchen and cook. Now we don't do that one that often. Because I tell my daughter, like, you need to be learning how to cook these greens over here. Like, you need to be learning how to, cook. We just do things together. Some of the easy stuff like shopping, like everybody love to go shop. Watching a movie. Some of the things, just the power presence to be there. But I want to leave y'all with this right here. Here's two things I just want to encourage, especially within your families. Love first. Love first. Love first. Even as a parent, you need to love first. That should be number one. As a parent, as a teacher, sometimes you need to love your students first. And as a friend, you just need to love your friend first. And as a community, can we love as a community first? Secondly, can we just listen? I said this before, as parents, sometimes we don't need to talk. We need to just listen. We need to just sit back and just listen to what our kids have to say, because a lot of times our kids are telling us a lot, but we just don't listen. That's the beauty of sitting down and eating dinner together, is that our kids get to talk and me and my wife get to listen. We get to listen to them. We get to hear what they're going through. We get to hear what they're dealing with. So love first, then listen. As a teacher, listen to your student. Like, really listen. They may be struggling in your class. Like, there are some things that they're just not getting, but you're not listening. And I know it can get frustrating because you're like, man, I ain't listening to 30 kids. I ain't listening to all them kids. You may not have to listen to all 30 of them. You may have to listen to 10 of them. But all these kids are not stupid. They're not dumb. And they're telling you some things that are going on in their life. And as a friend, you need to listen, because sometimes they're coming to you as friends because they want to invest in you, or you've invested in them, and they want to share some things. Hey, the community, hey, listen. Hey, as a community, we need to listen. If our young people are telling us there's nothing here for them to do, they don't see no value in being a part of the community, we need to listen. And we need to figure out how to get them involved, how to make them feel valued within our community. What are some things that we can do? So let's love first and let's listen second. And then we need to move on from there. Then after that, it's just all about how do we make these things work together? Because I'm telling these numbers just from 2015, they're going up. They're just going up. And so this is just what we've seen here. And I guarantee you, if we don't make some changes in this, and this is what this show is all about, is within this 11th hour where we got to start doing something different. We got to figure out what we need to do. And one of the things is I want to say, as a family, we need to make family more important. We need to just draw in as a family and make that 11th hour decision that, hey, I'm putting my phone down. Hey, I'm going to communicate with my kids. I'm going to spend some quality time with them. And I'm going to figure out how to keep this doorway open, that where I want my kids to talk to me, I want to learn how to start talking to other people. And if I'm going through some stuff, if I am asking my kids to talk, I got to learn to start talking, because it's not just our kids that are taking their lives. It's adults. It's grown folks that are taking their lives too. Hey, y'all, this is your boy, Pastor Mike. This is the 11th hour. That's all I got. Man, please hit us up on social media, the Nicholas Foundation. Y'all can check us out on social media. Y'all can check us out on the web, nicholasfoundation.org. Y'all can catch us on Facebook, Anytime you want to hit me up, just hit me up 615-295-8785. If you like the podcast, please share it and subscribe. Go make movements, not just moments. This is your boy, Pastor Mike, and I'm out. Peace.